Today's report will be on the disappearance of Lynette Hooker. KHOU 11 reports Brian Hooker's account of what had happened that night. It reads, the couple had been on a small, hard-bottomed dinghy heading to their yacht when bad weather caused Lynette to go overboard with the boat key, which caused the boat engine to shut off. Afterward, Brian was able to paddle to shore and alert someone to Lynette's disappearance early Sunday, and this was on April 4th. The case is currently not resolved, but there are some suspicious details that point to Brian Hooker being the murderer of Lynette. The first suspicious detail about this case is that Brian Hooker is comfortable with lying to his friends.
You are about to hear some things about Brian Hooker. Remember that whole business about not knowing the tides that Brian said in his phone call to his friend Blaine Stevenson? Remember, I don't know the tides and, the currents around here. And I said, horse, you sure did know the ebb tide, etc. in another message to the rescuers. Well, we found something else that Brian once wrote. And this is about sailing under a bridge. It's always very scary when you got a high mast and you need to sail under a bridge. You need to know how high you are. You need to know the tides or you're going to break your mast off going under a bridge. So here's Brian. We had to follow the outgoing tide going under 6 bridges that are nominally 65 feet above the high tide mark. Couple problems with this were a full moon the other night that made the tides very high, about an extra foot higher. Oh boy, you sure know the tides because you know what the moon does to the tides, bro. And the bridges are not as high above high water as they say they are on the charts. And so some of these crossings under were within inches. That's a guy who knows tides and knows what the moon does to a tide and knows how important tide knowledge is when you have a mast going under 6 bridges. So once again, Brian, you're adorable with your, I don't really know the tides or the, currents around here.
The thing that caught me and we talked about is at roughly 9 or 10 that morning, the guy who recorded him for TMZ, he's telling that guy he needs help raising his anchor because he needs a foot of water underneath his boat. So he's waiting for high tide. That is 10 hours before he talks to me and doesn't know what tides are. And then an hour after talking to me, he messages search and rescue and suddenly knows about the ebb and the flow and Matlow's K and Montage K and all that. So all in one day, he knew, did know tides and currents in a 12-hour.
I love the part where he knows ebb tide,
Right,
and it already said, I don't get these tide things. It just didn't make any sense.
Again, like I said at the time, when we were recording it, we were there to help a friend, understand. But you can't listen to that recording after 3 weeks of searching for Lynette and not understand that somebody was practicing their story on you, right? I feel like I was being used on that aspect. Maybe not to record it and put it out, but I think he was definitely practicing his story and see what would fly.
The second suspicious detail about this case is that Lynette's Apple Watch was on the boat and not on Lynette when she disappeared. The video I will show you will explain what I'm talking about.
Lynette was also wearing this Apple Watch in the last photo that was taken of her. How significant is it for investigators to try to find that watch? Is there any information that could come out of that?
So huge, really huge. Let's keep the tape on this one. Drop Dead Serious, my podcast, we found the last known picture so far of Lynette when she was at the Abaco Inn. It's the last place they left before, this ridiculous story that Brian tells happened of her bouncing out of the dinghy. But there's a photo of her near the pool, and she's wearing that Apple Watch because it's got a really light pink band, and you can see clear as day that light pink band. And wouldn't you know it, the authorities seized a light pink Apple Watch off of Soulmate. Well, if she bounced off the back of the dinghy, she never made it back to Soulmate. How would her watch be on there? And I can tell you this from her own daughter. Her habit was to be out all day, get up on board, take a shower, take her Apple Watch off because it had a terrible battery and it never really lasted through dinner. 7 o'clock at night. That's exactly the time frame where he says she bounced out. I think she came up on board, put that Apple Watch on a charger, had herself a shower, and then something, all holy hell, broke loose on board that boat. But that Apple Watch was there.
Wow. All right. That is the Drop Dead Serious podcast. Again, Ashley Banfield, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Pleasure's mine. Good to see you, Natasha.
The third suspicious detail about this case is that Brian lied about the weather in his story.
Effectively, everything he has said is a lie. And that I can say on television because he said the seas were 2 to 4 feet and the wind was blowing 18 knots. Well, not where he was. Maybe on the other side of Elbow Key, that would be the windward side. But on the leeward side, I have photos of the exact time and place. And it was calm as glass.
Let's go back to the wind. So the Firefly Inn took video with their surveillance cameras of those docks. Here's what it looks like at 7:15. Do you see a screaming wind? This is April 4th at 7:15 at night. I don't know what Brian's story is or what the real story is. We know the photo of him walking down to the dock is at 7. And we know he says it was 7:30. So I'm going to show you 7 o'clock. 7:15. That is 7:15. Look how calm that water is. Granted, you're coming into a little bit of a bay here as you come into the Firefly Inn. But sorry, y'all. This is not a screamer. These are not 2 to 4 foot waves. I don't even see any waves. In fact, the boat that's going out isn't even spraying anything. It's got no side spray because it's not hitting anything. It's just calmly going out in the bathwater. As it goes out a little bit, there's a ripple that starts, but a ripple is not 2 to 4 foot seas. Again, that's 7:15 at night. Right around the time that Brian is likely getting into the dinghy. According to the video, according to him, it's 15 minutes later. According, to the video, it's 15 minutes earlier. But you can see it for yourself. Now, if you want to go up the hill from the view that you're looking at, like go up high on the island so that you can start seeing over the back of the island and you can start feeling the wind coming from the Atlantic. Well, I got that too. That's at 7:30. And I want you to take a look specifically at the flags because the owner of the Firefly Inn pointed it out to me and said, these flags aren't even standing at attention. Like you can see the palm trees moving, but the wind is not so fierce that the flags are like rigid, in position at attention. They're kind of fluttering and dropping a little, and they're fluttering again and they're dropping a little. That is not a 30-knot wind. That is not even like a 20-knot wind. I don't even think it's an 18-knot wind, which is what some of the reports said the wind was when Brian and Lynette were out there. But you can see for yourself, this ain't a screamer. This is April 4th. This is the wind at exactly 7:30 on April 4th. And you can also see the effect. It's a little harder to see because the digital, look gets a little dirty as you get closer to the water, but there are no whitecaps out there. There's no 2 to 4 foot seas that I can make out. So now this is the first actual video I have of the sea conditions right in the leeward side of the island on Elbow Key, not even a quarter mile north of the Abaco Inn where Brian and Lynette apparently cast off and, tragedy visited them. Tragedy visited her.
The fourth suspicious detail about this case is that Brian has a past of domestic violence with his family.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Juliette Dragus. First at 6 o'clock, new developments in the search for a Michigan woman now missing for nearly a week in the Bahamas. Documents obtained by 13 on Your Side showed that there were previous charges involving her husband, Brian Hooker. A police report nearly 40 pages long details a domestic incident when they lived in Kentwood more than 20 years ago. 13 on Your Side's Peter Elliott reviewed those files. He joins us now with what he's learned. Peter.
Juliette, these are the documents we received from police in Kentwood late this morning. They detail a disturbing incident from November of 2005 that resulted in Brian Hooker's arrest. Brian Hooker chased his daughter out of the kitchen, pinning her up against a wall, with both hands around her neck, lifting her about a foot off the ground, demanding she say, "Yes, sir," to him. That's what she told police after she said her father choked her twice in November of 2005. That's according to new documents obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request filed by 13 on Your Side. They provide a clearer picture about the man being held in custody in the Bahamas in connection with the disappearance of his wife, Lynette. We've reviewed nearly 40 pages of court documents, witness statements, and reports from police in Kentwood, where Hooker and his family lived for years. These photos, taken after the incident, showing the injuries to the girl's neck, described as 2 small bruises, each no larger than a quarter. A physician later concluding she suffered a neck strain. Hooker was arrested on a charge of 4th-degree child abuse. He was also given a no-contact order for his children. He was later acquitted by a Kent County jury. Witnesses say the choking incident began around the kitchen table, with Hooker upset, degrading the children about the homework they were doing related to creationism. His daughter responded by calling Brian a bastard. She ran. That's when he chased her. After he let go and she ran back to the kitchen, Hooker choked her again in the kitchen, saying, quote, "Don't you ever call me bastard again." This discovery comes a day after the release of a separate batch of documents from Kentwood PD, dating back to 2015, in which Lynette claims Brian choked her. He was never charged in that incident.
He definitely denies causing her death, and he's still asking about her and is hopeful that she will be recovered.
Hooker's attorney, Terrell Butler, speaking with ABC News after he was interviewed by police in the Bahamas for about 3 hours Friday morning. Hooker has not been charged in his wife's disappearance.
He kept reiterating that I need to know what's happening with the search for my wife.
Brian Hooker's attorney says that authorities have until 7:20 tonight to charge him, release him, or explain why they continue to hold him. Juliette?
Peter, thank you. And we will continue to cover the search for Lynette Hooker and the investigation into her husband right here on 13 on Your Side. Be sure to stay with us on air and on our website, 13onyourside.com.
The fifth and final suspicious detail about this case that I was able to find is Lynette not wanting to be with Brian back in 2024. It reads, "How far south did you guys make it? We are probably starting the trek around the beginning of March. I guess it was too much closeness. We decided to call it quits. I'm not going back. Good luck, guys. I'm really sorry to hear this. Me too. Heartbroken considering I quit my awesome career, sold my house, and gave away everything I own to cruise. SMH stupid. Oh no, I can't remember. How long have you guys been cruising? We were married 21 years. Our marriage lasted 6 weeks cruising. Oh my goodness. Yep. I totally misread that. I thought neither of you liked it and were just hanging up cruising. Now I am really so sorry. Lol, just starting over. Oh darling, that's got to be tough. My heart goes out to you. A friend in NOLA has invited me to cruise. I'm just not sure now. NOLA, so it not cruising you're not enjoying, it's your spouse. I love sailing. And what is NOLA? New Orleans. Ah, okay. Well, that sounds like fun. It does, but too much going on to think about it right now. It would be weird without my Brian. Completely understandable. Probably a whole lot to wrap your brain around. So maybe I'll see you out there. Currently looking for a job. I don't know you well, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but when you comment that it would be weird without you, Brian, is it soon enough that maybe things could be reconciled? Not this time. It was real bad. I can't be out there with him. Totally understand. With a follow-up of this time, I get it. Big hugs, my friend. You're a strong woman. Looks like things are on the up and up. Heart emoji, thumbs up. So happy to see this. Oops, not. As of today, the Coast Guard has possession of the vessel and is currently investigating the boat, hopefully finding anything regarding the case. That will be it for this report. It was pretty short, but I will keep you guys updated on any new findings. In the scenario that Brian Hooker did murder his wife and no one proves that he did, justice will still be served on Judgment Day. Because it is said on Exodus 34:6-7, then Yahweh passed by in front of him and called out, Yahweh, Yahweh God, compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in loving kindness and truth, who keeps loving kindness for thousands, who forgives iniquity, transgression, and sin, yet he will by no means leave the guilty unpunished, visiting the iniquity of fathers on the children and on the grandchildren to the third and fourth generations. So, Brian, if you end up watching this video, you need to repent and believe the good news if you want to be saved from your sins. If you don't, you will go to hell. And with that, that concludes my report. I hope everyone had a blessed day today, and I hope to see you in another video. May God bless you.